I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, October 25th. A lot to talk about this morning. We have a powerful storm that's hitting the western part of the United States, Northern California, experiencing some heavy rains along coastal sections and heavy snows, inland higher elevation locations. Meanwhile, we have a storm system now over the Midwest. Its cold frontal system will push eastward over the next 6 to 12 hours or so and could result in some strong to severe thunderstorms in the I-95 corridor region later today into early tonight. And then a strong storm forms just off the eastern seaboard later on tonight into tomorrow, and it could result in some heavy rainfall, especially places like eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York City, all of which could experience some flash flooding type rainfall later tonight into tomorrow morning. Another storm system could develop along the East Coast late in the week, and that's after a severe weather outbreak on Tuesday and Wednesday across the heartland of the nation. All of this to be followed by a pattern change next week that looks like it could really bring some winter-like cold to much of the Midwest and even into the northeastern part of the nation, next week being the first full week of the month of November. First of all, let's take a look at the radar loop here from WSI's Intellicast.com. Lots of rain across California, really extending all the way up to the Pacific Northwest. The blue represents snowfall right now across the Sierra Nevada, eastern California, where they could end up with several feet of snow from this particular storm system. The winds have been quite high, especially along coastal regions, along Washington State, for example, but even into the northern half of California, some very strong wind gusts as well. Meanwhile, in the Midwest, you can see this line of showers and embedded thunderstorms associated with the cold frontal system. That will press to the east over the next 6 to 12 hours or so. By late in the afternoon, early tonight, could have some strong thunderstorm activity, places like D.C., Philadelphia, maybe even New York City. Signs already here of a coastal storm forming with all this shower activity off the Carolina coastline. Again, there'll be a strong east coast storm right in this region, right here off the mid-Atlantic coastline by later tonight into the day on Tuesday, producing some heavy rainfall in the mid-Atlantic region, especially across Philadelphia to New York City corridor, eastern Pennsylvania into southeastern New York, where there can be some flash flooding type rains later on tonight into the day on Tuesday. Well, let's take a look at a total precipitation forecast map from NOAA for the next 5 days. This goes all the way out from now until Saturday morning. Well, look at all this rainfall in the eastern half of the nation, and this along the mid-Atlantic coastline, the mid-Atlantic region, the northeastern part of the nation is really a couple different storm systems. This first one from tonight into the day on Tuesday, and then a second storm system late in the week, let's say later Thursday into Friday, maybe even into early Saturday. A lot of this precipitation out here associated with the storm system that is pounding the region today, but it's a very active weather pattern, and they'll get additional storms to deal with along the western part of the U.S. over the next several days. And much of this right here, precipitation is falling in the form of snow over the Sierra Nevada mountains of eastern California. Again, several feet of snow over the next couple of days. Well, let's in fact take a look at the forecast map for the next 5 days total snowfall from last night's GFS model run. And here are the higher elevations of eastern California, again on the order of several feet in some of those high elevation locations, Lake Tahoe for example, the Sierra Nevada, and some decent snowfall across some of the higher elevation locations of the interior western New York, western part of the nation over the next few days. Meanwhile, just north of New York State and southeastern Canada, some snowfall here, and again there will be a pattern change next week that will allow for colder air to move into the Midwest and the northeastern part of the nation. Not entirely out of the question that we'll have to deal with some potential snow in parts of the Midwest or northeastern U.S. sometime later next week. Well, let's kind of break down this outlook here, this stormy outlook here, by first looking at 500 millibar height anomaly forecast maps from last night's 0Z run of the GFS. First of all, noticeable, very noticeable here is very deep upper level low situated just off the northwest coast of Washington State here, just southwest of Vancouver Island here, all associated with that tremendous rainfall and higher elevation snowfall across the western part of the nation. Meanwhile, there's quite a potent upper level low right over the Midwest this morning. We'll just move forward here, and that one ends up helping to spawn a strong coastal storm just off the mid-Atlantic coastline by later tonight into the day on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the California system slides to the east, produces some rain and snow across the interior western part of the nation, and then kind of takes on a negative tilt to the trough axis in the upper part of the atmosphere. Tends to become oriented from northwest to southeast by the middle part of the week, and this will help to spawn some severe weather right here in the heartland by midweek, and that kind of slides in the deep south here by Thursday morning. Still a negative tilt here, very potent system. Watch out for severe weather on Thursday down across the deep south, and then that helps to spawn another East Coast storm here by the time we get into Friday. Again, the possibility of more rain along the East Coast here with some strong winds as yet another storm system develops. We'll just move forward here very quickly into the first week of November, and look at this pattern here. By the time we get to Monday night, a lot of cold air will be building up across the upper part of the Midwest, and will tend to slide to the south and east, reaching the Mid-Atlantic region some point next week, northeast U.S., with some winter-like cold possible in this part of the nation by the middle part of next week. Well, let's take a look at how the 850 millibar temperature anomalies change going forward here. Above normal conditions today, and by the way, let me mention, there'll be such a warm-up today in the mid-70s in some spots of the I-95 corridor region from D.C. to Philly to New York City. Could have some spots nearing record warm territory here, so much warmer today compared to yesterday as we closed out the weekend on a cool note here. Below normal temperatures along the west coast associated with that storm system, far below normal across much of California throughout the day today into tonight. And then here comes that cold frontal system from the Midwest towards the East Coast, and again that really helps in the formation of a strong East Coast storm for tonight and Tuesday, again with the likelihood of some flash flooding type rains. Philadelphia, Allentown, northeastern PA, New Jersey, New York City region. Here's all that cold air spilling out across the interior west. Then by the time we get into the midweek, watch out for severe weather first across the central plains, let's say later Tuesday into Tuesday night, and then across the deep south, let's say later Wednesday into Wednesday night. And that system slides in the east and could help to spawn another East Coast storm by the time we get to Friday, with some colder than normal conditions diving down into the southeastern part of the nation. Well, let's look at the surface forecast maps from last night's Zero-Z GFS model run. Kind of a classic warm frontal passage setup here in the Mid-Atlantic region. We have now the warm front pushing to the north here, allowing for a big warm-up. Again, mid-70s in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City this afternoon. Some spots potentially near record-breaking territory. Cold frontal system across the Midwest will slide to the east. And here's the heavy precipitation associated with the West Coast storm. Let's move forward. Low pressure tends to become the dominant player in the eastern U.S. later on tonight, and that will just throw some heavy rainfall, especially across places like New Jersey, New York City, maybe even across eastern Pennsylvania down to Philadelphia metro region. Winds will increase as well. Meanwhile, the energy associated with the West Coast storm will push inland across the interior western U.S. by early tomorrow, and then by tomorrow night. Look at this screaming southerly flow of air across the central plains. Watch out for the potential for some severe weather Tuesday into Wednesday across the front range of the Rockies all the way into the central plains. Meanwhile, strong coastal storm meandering off the New England coastline by tomorrow night with strong winds up and down the eastern seaboard. Then by the time we get into Wednesday, that upper level energy associated with the West Coast storm dives to the south and east with a negative tilt to the trough axis. Could result in some severe weather in the deep south at midweek, Wednesday night time period. And then it helps to spawn another storm for the eastern states. By the time we get to Friday, some more decent rainfall. Could be some heavy rainfall and some strong winds in the eastern part of the nation by the time we get to the end of the week, Friday into Saturday. Then we'll just go quickly look upstream, and here we go. This is a cold air mass comes Sunday morning charging across the northern plains at this time. Kind of a pattern change sets up for next week, which happens to be the first week of November, and that colder air eventually drops southeastward into the Midwest and the Northeast U.S., certainly looking like a much colder scenario for next week. The Midwest, the Great Lakes, the Northeast U.S., even the Mid-Atlantic region compared to this weekend, especially warm today in the Mid-Atlantic region. So a lot going on over the next several days. So stay tuned to the website. We'll certainly provide some updates. For now, this is it. I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.